Welcome in, everybody, to the Lando Show. Appreciate y'all stopping in. I'm very, honestly, just excited to be joined by one of my very best friends right now. We'll keep the intro pretty concise. Obviously, the game itself, the reason why you're all clicking on this video, goes without needing any sort of introduction, obviously. We all understand the magnitude of it, but the week is finally here. Alex Copeland from the Sooner side of the Red River, one of my very best friends. We were in college together, baseball players, teammates, and roommates for, 3 years? 4 years? Can't even remember that far back now.
Seems like 12.
Yeah. It really does. So, yeah, we're just, we don't have an agenda at all for this. We just wanted to introduce ourselves and introduce the idea of the original thought for this show, just between the two of us, this collaboration, was to bring insight to both teams, both programs, the current states, obviously previewing the matchup like we're doing this week. But we had, we wanted to call it, split down the 50 to kind of replicate the uniqueness that the Cotton Bowl itself does present, with both fan bases literally, split down the 50-yard line, half in burnt orange and white and half in crimson and cream, just like the blood that runs through both of our veins, man. So I guess let's just jump right into it, man. It's game week. Saturday's coming up. You're making the trip down. We'll be in attendance together until kickoff, pretty much. So I'm really looking forward to that. And if there's any, initial thoughts that you want to kick this thing off with, I'll let you have it.
Yeah, man. Appreciate being here. We've talked about it for a long time, and it's finally nice to make it happen. Like you were saying, this is one of the best weeks of the year.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
Yep.
With Texas having TCU last week and OU having K-State, both schools couldn't overlook those guys last week. I mean,
yeah.
I guess we're recording this on Monday. 2 days ago, Texas and Oklahoma both had to be locked in to those guys.
Mm-hmm.
With Kansas State beating OU the last 2 years. We all know the TCU history in Texas.
First win in Fort Worth since Mac Brown, man. Crazy.
I was glad to see you guys. I think the score wasn't indicative of the game. I thought, watching that game, I thought Texas really controlled line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
On both sides of the ball.
I actually predicted a blowout, so it was bold, but I felt the momentum going into that game, and I was right in the corner of the end zone where Bijan got stuffed on 4th and 1 from the goal line. And, that game, if he gets in the end zone there, which I hated the play call, that's another discussion. But if, we assume Bijan does fall forward for 1 yard, which he normally does very easily, it could be that would have made it a 39-20 game at that point.
Right.
It ended up being much closer than that, and actually a little bit of a nail biter there as TCU kind of marched down the field, and we didn't elect to spend a timeout. So kind of held our breath there for a second. I know OU, I saw most of the second half after we drove home from the game, so you can kind of fill us in on what you saw. But I thought that OU played much better than the score indicated in that game as well. It seemed like, just from my perspective, they were much more similar to being back to their old self as far as just their potency offensively goes. And Gabe and Teddy had their thoughts about that too, just about kind of getting back to their old ways. But that was just my view from an outsider's perspective.
No, 100%. And the reason I wanted to touch on going back to Saturday was that exact reason. From the Oklahoma side, and obviously the Texas side with the loss to Arkansas already, and Sark's new regime. Everybody on that side has to remember we're 5 games into this deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of which, I meant to mention as well. It's hilarious, and I envy the Sooner Nation actually a little bit. OU's 5-0, but all the reports, everything that we see and hear in the media, it just feels like for whatever reason they're not scoring 70 points a week and it feels like the sky is falling. You would think that was the case. So it must be nice to be 5-0 and still kind of be upset. I guess it just depends. Like, there's always going to be things that you can nitpick. I know Alabama gets pissed off when they don't score a touchdown every single drive of every game. So, we all have our our own little differences and nuances to what we think is pertinent and what we need to work on. But yeah, man, it's wild to think that.
You're absolutely right. But in terms of OU leading into this week, everybody knows the struggles we've had offensively.
Yeah.
You can point the blame where you want. If you are listening to any kind of radio from the state of Oklahoma, you would think that all of a sudden Spencer Rattler forgot how to throw the football.
Yep.
And according to some people around the state and on forums and message boards, you would think that he was drinking whiskey in the locker room before games because he couldn't, with how bad his quote unquote decision making has been. But it was really good to see.
That was the actual quote or what?
No, just basically that's kind of how people have been framing this.
I got you.
Of how bad that they think he's been playing when it's just not the case. But it was really nice to see the offense click and move this past weekend. Mm-hmm. As a scoreboard watcher across the country, you could probably tune in, see it on the clicker or the ticker on the bottom and see at halftime OU Kansas State tied 10-10 and think, well, here we go again. OU's offense.
3 in a row.
Right? Well, that just wasn't the case. And that's been the story of the season. I really believe for the Oklahoma offense has been they had 3 possessions in the first half. In this modern era of college football in 2021,
which is
that's unheard of.
That is unheard of, and that's also interesting too because we know philosophically like what K-State likes to do, how they kind of approach it's a lot of power stuff, 2-back formations. They're basically trying to attack you on the ground, and basically a lot of different jumbo packages and formations, and getting the H-back and the fullback involved in a variety of ways, and then a ton of the quarterback run game. So you hear that, and you tell me, that's interesting. I didn't realize OU only had 3 possessions in the first half, but you also go and check the box score, and it kind of makes you wonder how that happened because I didn't see the first half. I was at the TCU Texas game, and Skylar Thompson threw it 41 times.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, he was definitely hobbled.
What was the deal there in the first?
Basically, Kansas State came out from the first quarter and said, "You're gonna have to stop us on 4 downs, no matter where we're at on the field."
Okay.
So they got into those
on a lot of 4th downs and stuff.
They ended up 4 or 5 on 4th downs, and the one that they didn't get was a review on a catch that the ball hit the turf, and it was the right call. It was a great effort. It was the right call, but. Like I said, 3 possessions in the first half. We score on all 3. You got to be perfect, right? Mm-hmm. Going into the second half, offensively, we ran zone, split zone, outside zone. The running game really got going. Offensive line seemed to play better at some times. I refer to Gabe and Teddy.
Action stuff in the passing game too, like getting the pocket moving, like off-platform stuff, which is what I'm used to seeing from OU offenses.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Rattler's 22 of 25. You can't really be more perfect than that. Yeah. He did have a pick that was 3rd and 18. Trying to let his guy go make a play, ends up getting picked off at the 8-yard line. It's like a punt. Mm-hmm. No worries there. You'd like to convert it, right? But it didn't hurt you at the end. But all in all, offense, it makes you excited going into this week. Defensively, a little bit different. But I think that's more of an anomaly than it is a trend. Mm-hmm. Defensively walking into this OU Texas week.
And that was thought to be, as crazy as it sounds, with as potent as OU's offense, seemingly they've got a first-round draft pick or a first overall pick quarterback every year and also a Heisman Trophy winner. So it's crazy to hear the reports in camp, right, leading up to the season in the middle of the summer and stuff like that OU's defense might be – maybe best suited to be the strength and end up doing a lot of the dirty work for the team as far as carrying them throughout the season. So
and the reason for that, Landon, is the inexperience on offensive line.
Yeah, I'm glad you're hitting on that, because that was going to be my next question, actually. So
yeah, we've watched 1,000 football games together of both OU and Texas when they're not playing each other, and for our adult life, and offensive line play at OU has never been a question.
Never.
Never. You turn the TV on Sundays, and they're littered.
Yep.
Throughout the NFL.
Some guy named Creed Humphrey is snapping the ball to Patrick Mahomes on Sundays right now. So that's
he's had a pretty good run with quarterbacks.
Yeah, I would say so.
But I think we're finding out what it's like to have to rebuild the continuity. And speaking of Creed Humphrey, if people didn't realize how important he was to this offense last year and the year before, now you do.
Yeah.
Right?
So is that a true freshman starting behind him now? Or what's the status on?
It's Andrew Raym, redshirt freshman from Broken Arrow High School, where the streets are paved with gold,
God,
my friend.
Here we go. Don't get him started, folks. Oh, man. Cope is, if you didn't catch that, he's actually from Broken Arrow in the Tulsa area. So that's where that parallel is drawn.
But, he's physical. He's nasty. He played tackle in high school. Last year, I know he was on the depth chart as a guard. He didn't play any center before this year. And then had COVID 2 weeks before the season started. Right.
Okay. That's an interesting.
The news coming out.
That's an interesting nugget.
News coming out of camp was that it was him and a transfer from the University of Arizona, Robert Conjul, kind of compete for that job. And Raym gets COVID 2 weeks before the season. Conjul starts game 1. Yeah. Raym's kind of getting back into it. But here's the thing, and I'm pulling this from Gabe, is that seemingly missing Creed is one of the biggest things, besides all the other great things Creed did, was communication-wise.
Yeah.
You can see
a lot
that
has to happen. For those of you out there listening, like, the center is the brains of the offensive line. He's the quarterback of that unit, and he ultimately is kind of responsible for everything being lined up structurally pre-snap. So if the ball not only does it come out on time and accurately, but the protection isn't aligned perfectly. He doesn't accurately identify the mic at times. Like that duty can be, the quarterback or the center, kind of both handling that. But all that to say, like, the center position is understated, I would say, as far as how the credit that it gets. It doesn't get nearly enough credit for the importance of just the overall flow of the offense. And that all goes without even saying. Once everything has happened pre-snap and the ball is snapped on target, and if they're in pistol or shotgun sets, right, you have to be able to anchor the interior of the offensive line and pass pro as well, because we both know centers aren't. Most of the time, they're not maulers. That's they rely on the guy to their left and the guy to their right. Those are your bullies up front. But the center has to be able to hold his own. Otherwise, interior pressure, that's what ultimately wrecks everything. Like, interior pressure is worse. It's the worst type of pressure. I think most quarterbacks would probably tell you that. So can't be really overstated. So yeah, OU loses Creed Humphrey, and so I guess you would probably attribute some of the offensive struggles a lot more towards that, as opposed to what the media would like to tell you in Spencer Rattler. If I'm
yes, no, you're absolutely right. The communication on the offensive line goes from the center out and back in.
Yep.
Okay, but that starts in the middle. So this week we get on the topic of OU Texas, what everybody wants to hear. You're gonna have a guy on the OU side starting at center in his first OU Texas game, first live action.
Mm-hmm. That's
we
big.
know that we know the records with new quarterbacks in the game. We know the records with new coaches in the game.
Do you have that handy? I actually don't remember off top. I know It's the 117th meeting between the two teams. Texas currently leading the series 62-49 with 5 ties, but OU obviously, as we all know, not only dominating the conference, but in the last 15 years dominating this game as well.
I do not have the actual number. I can pull it up, but it's something staggering on how new coaches and new quarterbacks fare. And one of the things as an OU,
that was a talking point for Sam and Kyler in Kyler's first game too. I remember that now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And as an OU guy walking into this, one of our biggest question marks the first 4 games is offensive line. Mm-hmm. I think that is something to note that, hey, it's going to be loud, and there's going to be a lot of COVID-crazy fans in there that didn't get to go last year.
Yep.
And we got this pilgrimage for us, the annual pilgrimage south, right?
Yep.
We didn't get to go.
Y'all hop on your little Sooner schooners and head down to God's country. Yep, that's the way it works.
Be double burden across the Red River. But no, I think that's going to be one big thing to watch early in the game is just the communication.
Double burden
from the center.
Bad birdie.
Absolutely. Double burden. I don't want to do it and actually have to apologize like Eli Manning did on Monday night the other night. That was actually pretty funny.
That's a great touch, by the way, to Monday Night Football. Is it not on tonight? I know they're doing the countdown to Tyson and Fury 3, so I'm guessing that's what took the place of it. But kind of like to hear some analysis from those two guys.
Nope, not tonight.
Okay, so back on track here. Creed Humphrey gone. Redshirt freshman center starting in what will be his first, Red River rivalry matchup this weekend. So that's one of the big things for you. I'll go ahead and give one of my concerns for this game as well. I don't at this moment have the status of starting corner Josh Thompson, who missed last week's matchup with TCU due to a concussion. I don't know whether the status of his availability will be. But to me, Texas hasn't really been tested yet in critical moments of the game. I would say late in the second half through the air. Louisiana didn't really possess enough to challenge them the way that I even thought that they might. I gave PK a lot of credit there, but the Arkansas matchup, they don't. That's not their brand of football, anyways. So especially when they have a huge lead, they're grounding and pounding, and they marched up and down the field for 300 on us. So we didn't really get to see our secondary unit in that matchup either. And then against Texas Tech, obviously, we saw B.J. Foster got hit for a couple big plays. I think it was Deshaun Jameson got hit for a big play as well. But that was when the game was already way out of control. It was, Texas had a 40-point lead damn near. And so I'll give them a pass there, just saying that it's easy to maybe just be lulled to sleep because, you're just so comfortable, so confident that you lose focus for just a split second. And next thing you know, Tech's backup quarterback Columbia's hitting you for a 50-yard touchdown. So would like to see those obviously not happen. But, again, I haven't seen a game for 4 quarters when I know the secondary for Texas can be challenged the way that OU can challenge it. And so, to me, that's the biggest concern. And even Max Duggan a week ago in Fort Worth, that's not really their cup of tea in Gary Patterson and Doug Meacham's offense with Max Duggan. They like to kind of get after you on the ground as well. He's shown at times he can hit you with the deep ball here and there. He actually got Texas. Texas fans are all too familiar with that. But that's my biggest key. I want to see with potentially a non-healthy, again, starting array of corners. Missing Josh Thompson was big last week. I thought Darian Dunn filled in from him, the transfer from McNeese State. He's great as a tackler and in the run game, supporting that. He's doesn't shy away from contact. The only thing, though, again, we don't really know what kind of a cover guy he can be. So that's my biggest concern, I would say.
Well, I think touching on that is for a Texas fan, if that is one of the biggest concerns, I think you almost can smile with that because here's the thing: if you've watched Oklahoma in the first 4 games, and those guys are going to be watching tape, take away the run game. And what OU wants to do on their boots and their play actions and their RPO game, OU has not hit deep balls, deep shots like they have in the past. I think plays over 20 yards, there's a handful of them. I was looking at Texas stats earlier, and plays over 20 yards. I think they had almost 20 of them, if not more. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Oklahoma's in the double digits of plays of 20 yards or more, which is a head scratcher to really think about.
That is kind of crazy.
Here's the thing. Texas is going to want to take away the run at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
OU's going to want to establish it. Texas play that too high, where OU can't beat you over the top, because that's the formula. Tulane, Nebraska, West Virginia, Kansas State, they've all done it now. And they played the too high safeties. Okay, hey, we're going to keep everything underneath and take away your deep ball. Establish the run with that young offensive line.
Yeah.
I think that Texas defensive recipe is going to be the same exact thing. And so here's the thing. If Texas is getting pressured in the secondary in the fourth quarter, I think that's probably a good thing. I think that means you're ahead, because OU's having to throw the ball a ton. I think at that time in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I think at that time in the fourth quarter, as an OU fan, and you're running the football a ton, and you were to ask me what the score of the game is, I think it's more in your favor.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a totally fair point. I'll be interested to see how PK, like the schematical adjustments now. This is the first time in a while, knowing the things that I know, I actually feel confident in the matchup from as far as how our coaching staff stacks up with the OU coaching staff. Both very reputable, both have done it at the highest level, and both of these play callers, I think it's safe to say, you and I have talked about this off air as well in the past. We both kind of agree that Steve Sarkisian and Lincoln Riley, while Steve still has maybe a little bit more to prove as far as like a longevity of doing so, I think he's up there in the conversation with maybe the 5 or 6 best play callers on the planet right now, and that includes the NFL. So for both of these guys, they finally kind of see they have similar resumes, similar track records as far as finding formulas that win for their team and matchups, creating matchups schematically. That's going to be cool to see.
One thing on that, Landon, I absolutely agree. One thing I'll be interested to watch as well is whenever you listen to these press conferences with guys, coaches, players on current rosters or even former guys that talk about this game, it's unlike any game, right? Mm-hmm. It's different. The sights, the smells, the sounds. Not only are the players walking out of the Cotton Bowl at 3:30, 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon exhausted, but you and me and the rest of the 80,000 or 75,000 fans in the Cotton Bowl, everybody's emotions are drained. You are dead, and you weren't even on the field. As a play caller, absolutely. Yeah. I'm really interested to see, because what I've watched of Sark is, man, he is very calm, cool, and collected, right?
Always.
It seems like
I actually love that about him.
Well, it'll bring me to another point later, but it seems like he's been there, done that with everything. My challenge to that is, you haven't been there, done that here in this one.
Yeah.
And I want to know. I'm interested to see what kind of toll does that take, because it's not like this is an impossible game for him to win. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying the magnitude of what this football game, and it's more than a football game, what it is. I think he'll have a better appreciation of it whenever he steps in the front of that podium, win or loss, on Saturday afternoon, and say, "Yeah, boys, I've coached in the Iron Bowl, but this was different."
I was going to say, the Iron Bowl would be the only one that people could even have an argument with, but even then, it's not neutral site and it's not 50-50. That's the uniqueness of this game for us, Texas and OU. It's like we said at the beginning, introducing the title of our series now that we're starting as of today. Split down the 50, man. That's the most unique game in all of college football right now. Obviously, we both have biased opinions there, But
You're damn right, we do.
Most people agree, and even College Game Day agrees. They, selecting this setting over Penn State, Iowa. You and I both thought that would be the case for College Game Day as well. But definitely glad that it wasn't, and that it's here. Another thing I just thought of, though, you helped spark the idea, actually. Casey Thompson, I know it's going to be a vastly overstated storyline regarding, where he's from, like, Sooner, from the Sooner State, from a Sooner family. I know that he'll be ready for this one, and the emotions will be crazy. But also, knowing what I know about Casey, his best quality, I would say, is his level of just calm. He always just kind of seems to be even keel. And the way that he just approaches the preparation, the willingness to stick around for, as long as he has, in his fourth year now at Texas, just started his first football game this season, 2 weeks ago. So it's cool to see the way that his career has kind of slowly evolved and where we are now. But again, so back to the environment and the effect that it could potentially have, right, as far as storylines are concerned, I think Casey Thompson will be all too familiar with it, just being that, it is his first time playing, but it'll be his fourth one in attendance as a backup quarterback, or third, I guess. And then also just everything that he knows coming from his dad who played in this game himself. So I don't know. I think I'm confident as far as Casey's ability to just remain calm and just, go out there and play football. So
almost compare it to on a minor scale to our baseball careers. And really we got to play at a high level. But there were games for us that mattered a little more due to certain reasons, whether this school didn't recruit you, what it may be. Now, like I said, that's a minor scale to what we're talking about, right? But this game means a lot to him. And whenever if he downplays it all, I haven't heard any audio from him this week, which I don't think he will.
Yeah.
But you're damn right, it means a lot to him. I mean, he grew up. He was in OU's backyard.
His whole life.
And
yeah.
if he didn't want to shove it to those guys,
yep,
on Saturday, then he's not a competitor, and I know he is.
Yeah. I saw a tweet today from somebody close to him. They basically said, like, Casey had teachers tell him, if he commits to Texas, they'll never root for him again. There's some, like, preposterous statement from a educator like that. But I know that's how much this game means, and I think, the casual fan or the innocent bystander would say, that's ridiculous. You could never say that to a child. But I think you and I kind of understand the magnitude and the realm from which that teacher comes from. Like, it's personal, and it's in our blood, right? It's like, it's the way of life. So that's fun, man. I love that. I love that narrative right there.
Yeah, and one of the things as a Texas guy that you can correct me if I'm wrong here, that with a new quarterback starting in this game and the record that we talked about earlier, the biggest thing that's going to help him is number 5 standing next to him.
Yeah.
And
oh man, absolutely, yes.
And I'm not downplaying athletes Texas have had in the past. This guy is a little bit different.
He's very different. He's very different.
I think,
and trust me, that energy is reflected throughout the fan. Like, it's like, it's rare that you get a fan base the size of each of these two. It's very hard for everybody to agree on certain things, right? Especially topics like I actually said today on a show, I was talking about the Cowboys, and it's like this time a year ago, I was at war with 50% of my fan base having a conversation about why we should or shouldn't pay Dak Prescott. And now we kind of see that. We see why. But, yeah, man.
Well, but that's his biggest asset is to, like what we know of, he's not a young guy. But whenever you have a young quarterback and you're trying to get him in the flow of games, you're throwing screens, you're throwing bubbles, you're establishing the run. No, he's not young, but this is new. To be the starter, to take snaps in this game, and to have that guy who you're going to throw the bubbles, you're going to hand the ball off to, and that dude can house that thing at any time. Yeah. And here's the thing that'll lead me to my next point that we can talk about Bijan and the year he's having and is on track to have. Those Texas guys have been watching the film.
He's already starting to gain some Heisman steam.
Right. Deservedly so. But those Texas guys are watching the film, and they've seen that OU cannot cover the damn running back out of the backfield to save their damn life.
Saw it last week with Deuce Vaughn.
Credit to Deuce Vaughn that he's a good player. But whenever you're a defensive coordinator, and I thought this was hilarious, in his post-game press conference, he goes...
Who? You talking about Grinch?
Grinch, yeah. In his post-game there in Manhattan, he was furious, simmering, and guess what Gabe said on his podcast, that he's never seen him that mad. That in the press conference, he literally tells the media, I assure you, we had someone responsible for the running back. Why they didn't cover them, I don't know, but I can assure you that we did.
I love that so much.
It's like, almost letting the fan base know, hey, I know you're pissed about the swing game and the bubbles, but we had somebody responsible for it.
My player screwed up. He didn't do his job. That's what he's saying. That's funny right there.
As an OU fan, man, that feels good going in this game because that's on tape. Tulane beat us in the scored 2 touchdowns on swing passes down in the red zone. Nebraska utilized the running back out of the backfield. West Virginia was a little bit different. K-State then did it. So here's a name that I'm calling out there. That's a hot take that he may not even play. He hasn't even been cleared to play.
We're here for the hot take. Let's hear it.
But number 28, Danny Stutzman, true freshman, Teddy Lehman Jr., is going to have an impact on the game if he plays. He plays the mic. The dude, he's 6'3", 215. He's from Florida. He was a 3-star linebacker. Kind of went under the radar until OU offered him. But this guy is tough as nails. Got a little bit of a screw loose, which you want your linebackers to have. He's fast. He plays hard. He flies to the football. He got hurt in the Western Carolina game. Some sort of elbow. He's been out since. But one of the most impressive things about him, Landon, is the guy played football his high school senior year in the spring. He's not an early enrollee. So,
I see what you're saying. Okay.
So this is his second season of football in the same calendar year, which is crazy. Whenever he got to campus, I guess in June, I mean, he's already he put on 15 pounds, looks completely different.
Wait, you're saying he had his high school senior season was in the spring?
Due to COVID, yeah.
Of this year?
Is his second, yeah.
Oh, I got you now. Okay. Wow. So he's just battered and banged up, probably still, his body didn't have the same amount of, the opportunity to recover and get himself right in the offseason, right? That's
definitely could be. But if he plays, if he's clear to go, I think he's going to start.
Okay.
And that's a pretty big deal.
That would be keeping him out of the game?
Yeah. It was like a dislocated elbow in that Western Carolina game a few weeks ago. He's coming off the field, and you can see on camera he is growling at the crowd. The trainer's holding his elbow, and he's growling. Danny Stutzman.
Danny Stutzman. I'm going to pull him up right now.
And then he gets to the sideline, and he's pumping the crowd up, trying to come back in the game against an FCS opponent with a dislocated elbow. But
speaking of dislocated elbows, something you and I do now have in common, obviously, aside from CeeDee Lamb, who, stud, superstar, bona fide superstar. But Neville Gallimore, too, man. What is it with OU players and dislocated elbows? The Cowboys could use his services, again, back in the middle of our defensive line. There was a lot of hype for him, actually, coming into the season. He was atop the depth chart there at the 3 technique for Dan Quinn, but Osa's kind of making a case to make sure that Neville doesn't have a job whenever he gets back.
What's worse, both OU guys dislocate their elbow, or they both do it in games that don't matter? God.
Yeah.
Those are those that you shake your
Yeah,
head.
it was second week of the preseason for Neville. That sucks, man. Hate to see it.
So, but no, to my point about Stutzman, who knows? Who knows if he's going to play? I think he would really help the linebacking core the flat, whether it's in man with the running backs coming out of the backfield or play the zone. You know, the zone has been a free play for guys against us when we've gotten to third and longs, and we're almost dropping to the sticks, which fine, play zone, drop to the sticks. They play that hook curl area, catch the football, rally, a couple people make a tackle, right? Rally to the football, but it's been a free play. I mean, we've been. It's like we're either reading the quarterback, and whenever his eyes move in zone, we don't move with him, or we do, but one guy does out of the zone, not playing underneath and three guys rallying to the football. It's one, and like in the game last week, one guy rallies the ball in space, we miss a tackle, first down, keep the chains moving. OU has 3 possessions in the first half. That's one of the reasons. So that's going to be really interesting to watch. Is that zone coverage?
Bijan getting incorporated into the game, maybe, just in swing routes out of the backfield, catching balls in the flat, screen game, that type of thing. You think Sark may be like Mike Keaton on that? Like, was it that egregious to where?
Yes. No, it's that egregious that swing out of the backfield, okay, almost running the having a 2x2 set, and the slot, say back is offset to the left, the slot either comes in motion or lines up on the close, to the core, picks the linebacker, and the linebacker doesn't even see him coming, doesn't have the awareness. Or they leave him out there, and they just throw the swing pass anyways. Both ways, I definitely see Sark trying to get to check. Basically, those first, how many would you say, 15, 20 plays? 15 plays that OC script,
They're
right?
all scripted, yeah.
And
usually the first drive and then a couple extra.
And those are basically checks on your defense, right? Like, hey, we've watched you guys on film. We think we can expose you with this.
It's a pissing contest, basically, to see seeing which side will tip their hand first as far as how they're going to choose to attack you for that game. Zeke actually talked about that in his last press conference before the Panthers game too. He said they didn't know going into the game if it was going to be more of a ground-based attack or an aerial attack. And Kellen said that throughout the second quarter, they realized they were starting to kind of wear down on that defensive front, and so it turned into another Zeke and Tony Pollard day. So, that's cool.
I see that, and I see Sark. What are his zone beaters? Whatever they may be,
RPOs,
whatever. Yeah,
a lot of Sark. He talks a lot about break the daylight. We've seen it hasn't just been RPO. We actually haven't seen a ton of that because. The last 3 games, really, because the Rice game got so out of hand so quickly. It was just 4 Texas running backs doing it, on the ground, a lot of zone stretch stuff. That's been incorporated more of a feature and focal point for the run game this last 2 weeks. So it's actually funny, though. You're talking about, maybe Sark finding a hole in OU's defense, stretching them horizontally, right? Can OU communicate well enough on the defensive side of the ball in a zone defense to keep Texas's speedy playmakers like Xavier Worthy and Joshua Moore and Bijan Robinson, and then a fourth guy who I'm really, really hoping starts to just get a few more touches here. Most people don't know, but it's technically the third running back on the depth chart, Keelan Robinson, who's the fastest player on the team, number 7. That's a guy that I'm gonna I'll say you gave Danny Stutzman a second ago, number 28 and Crimson, but for me that would actually be mine to just see if Sark can get Keelan involved in the passing game as kind of that game-breaking home run speed type of guy. So number 7, man. I don't know. So do you expect, like, knowing what you know right now, which again, things can change on a week-to-week basis for teams offensively and defensively, but do you expect more zone coverage for Alex Grinch's D, or I mean, what is OU's style right now? How are they trying to contain opposing offenses?
Well,
what have they been best at?
I think you definitely will see the zone in third and mediums and third and longs. I think they're going to work the hell out of that in practice. But
okay.
I think one of the things that hurt them last week was they didn't get pressure on the quarterback. And this defensive line was highly touted coming into the year. They've played up to the standard so far until last week. We had 1 sack and 1 QB hurry. That's just not going to get it done, especially against a guy that was hobbled. But you know what? That offensive line played their asses off. That's just what it is. Still, it's not an excuse. Number 8, Perion Winfrey.
41 was it 41 dropbacks for Skylar Thompson, and he didn't get sacked once, or was it one time maybe?
1 sack, 1 sack. Yes.
Okay.
So not acceptable with you got arguably, 2 of the baddest dudes in the conference, and Benito and Isaiah Thomas coming off the edge. You've got a guy, Perion Winfrey, in the middle, whose name did not get called last week. I really expect him to have
he's kind of their dude, right? That's the dog on that side of the ball, right? Or didn't he forgo didn't he forgo an NFL combine invite? I swear he was like,
no, he didn't forgo. He was a junior. He came from junior college. Yes.
I was thinking he had a big year and turned down the NFL to come back. I don't know why.
He did. Maybe. He could have went last year.
Okay, but it wasn't like going to be like a top pick or nothing?
No.
Okay.
Benito's their dude on third down to go get the quarterback. But Perion Winfrey needs to establish himself in this game in the interior because they rotate a bunch of dudes. We need to hear number 8's name called. If you get pressure on the quarterback, that saves a lot of stuff going on in zone coverage or man early in the
oh yeah, man, you got
possession. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Teddy was talking.
I mean, it doesn't matter what you're running if you're not applying pressure within 3 seconds. At least in the NFL, I guess in college that number is a little bit higher, probably 3.5 seconds. It don't matter what type of defense you're running or how skilled your cover guys can be. If you can't apply pressure quick enough, if you can't alter the timing of the quarterback, man, it doesn't none of that other stuff matters.
Yeah, so pressure on the quarterback will help our zone coverage issues. Pressure on the quarterback.
And I don't think Texas has done a great job at that either this year, at least from what I've seen. We expected that to be the best unit on our entire roster too, and that hasn't been the case thus far either. So that'll be interesting.
So that's one deal, and then the other thing on defense is, man, if you have an opportunity to get a takeaway, you better capitalize. They preach takeaways. When we had 2 interceptions last week, looked like some of our old junior college teammates trying to catch fly balls in the outfield.
Not naming any names.
No, we won't do that to them. But no, when the opportunities present themselves, you got to take advantage of it. You got to make a splash play. They've got to strain more. They've got to play with effort. Like any game, you got to that and special teams. I think special teams is pretty even from what I've seen. I will say I like our kicker better than Dicker the kicker. Although he put a nail in my heart a few years ago when I was sitting in the Texas
he did.
section.
Damn right he did.
He
cemented himself. He's forever cemented himself.
No, this game right here, man, like what I was going to say about the Keelan Robinson kid, number 7.
Yeah.
Players turn into legends. You make a play in this game, you're remembered forever. by people like you and me. I mean, I've been a diehard OU fan since I was 6 years old, and I do not claim to know every in and out in football. I'm not an analyst. That's not what I'm here doing. It's strictly from a fan perspective that cares about his team.
Absolutely.
That, whenever I was a little kid and my dad and his dad were watching OU Texas, you make a play, you become a legend. And it's
legend.
Remember when this happened. Yeah. Remember when this happened. And we go on and on and on both sides of the ball. That's one of the coolest things about this game, man, is we have, there's plays that you have. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know for me, you just have, specific plays where you can just see over and over and over again. And more recently for us, I think this will be my fifth time being at the Cotton Bowl.
You and I started in 2012, that fall.
Yeah.
That's when you and I started going to every game together besides last year with COVID.
So I know, has it been 4 or 5? I think it's this 5, right?
This year?
Yeah, this will be our 5th. I don't know. I can't remember. I wanted to say I was 2-2. That was my thought. I thought that's what I remember it to be anyway. But maybe I'm forgetting one.
Yeah, we're either on 5 or 6. I think this is the first year that Dad's not going to be with us. That's always an interesting character to have. I'm gonna miss the heck out of having him there, but
we gotta get an interview again this time with Fox instead of just the Fox mini network or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's pretty unique.
So, I actually was on record. I said last week I don't know if Texas beats TCU if all other things are equal in that game and Bijan Robinson doesn't exist. So you're talking about becoming a legend, even as only in his sophomore year. I was gonna make that as one of my talking points too. It's just I'm doubling down on your take is the magnitude, man. It's crazy. I think if Bijan does the same thing, has a similar type of game, even to a lesser extent than what he did last week. He had 35 carries, which is a crazy pace to keep up for the rest of the season. But if he does something like that and helps carry Texas to a win, already the momentum he has in the Heisman race, he'll go down as one of the Longhorn all-time UT greats.
Absolutely.
It's crazy what one game can do for your legacy, man. It's
Absolutely.
So cool.
Hey, a point on Bijan. We keep referring to Gabe and Teddy. It's the Oklahoma breakdown with Eichert and Lehman. Give them credit where it's credit's due. Those guys do an unbelievable job week in, week out on their analysis of what's going on.
They are good. Even as a Texas fan, I enjoy their stuff.
And they're hilarious. They're fair, and a lot of the things that I don't see, I hear from them, and I go back and I watch, and I see it.
You can,
Gabe was saying that Bijan, if he was Bijan Robinson, that after this season, he would do everything in his power to pull a Maurice Claret and go to the draft. That he would be. That Gabe said on the podcast the other day that he was talking to a couple guys in the NFL front offices that said if he went to the draft next year, he would be a day one guy. At worst, be early round 2. I thought that was really interesting. I don't know.
And even I agree that's the type of talent that he is. The only thing that would give me pause, it's not a running backs league anymore in the NFL, and I thought it was egregious enough for even Najee Harris the season that he had last year, as talented as I think he is. I do think Bijan's more talented right now than Najee Harris is, and that's a first round pick. So maybe that is true. Even in a dying running backs league, it's all about the quarterback and the passing game now for the most part. But I can't disagree.
Yeah, and another thing that kind of makes me think that Gabe's onto something is that, like you said, he had 35 carries last week.
30, yeah. Well,
35 touches.
I was told 35. Yeah, 35 touches, I believe, is what it was.
okay, well, we know the miles that a running back takes, and
Yep.
and you're being featured like this week in, week out. Say you go have a pretty darn good year. If there's
Oh no, I would
way-
actually lobby. I would lobby for it, for him to do it. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that selfishly wanting him to come back. I'm saying speaking only to the draft capital that would be allocated to him,
Right.
just because of the nature of the position. It's so
Right.
few and far between now that running backs go in round one. That's
Right.
all I was saying. But yeah, no, I would absolutely think it would not only be possible, I would encourage it for him, just
Right.
because of the beating that it takes, the half-life, that especially at that position. It's not very long. So yeah,
well,
that's a good point.
So what are you expecting on Saturday? I'm not asking for a score prediction or an outcome. More of from our fans' experience. Are you expecting a pretty ruckus atmosphere? Obviously, we saw game days coming today, and I believe, if I'm right, 2 years ago, whenever Fox Noon Kickoff and game day were both there. I think
Yeah, they
game day
were.
would be on the northeast side of the stadium, if I'm correct there. Maybe wrong.
Shit, I don't know. I'm the most directionally challenged dude on planet Earth. I couldn't even tell you.
This year, it may be obviously a different spot because I don't think Fox will be there. But what's your expectations, or just what are you excited for, man? Yeah, Longhorn Nation. They're gonna show up in droves, expect to win the football game, or is there gonna be doubt? Are they selling their tickets?
Nah, so
There's been years past where they're selling their tickets.
yeah,
I'm just
scalping
teasing.
made easy. Brought to you by 5 and 7 seasons.
Thank you, Charlie Strong.
So it's without getting too deep into just all the fake hype, the burnt orange Kool-Aid stuff, right? I'll try to eliminate as much of that as I possibly can. I will say, I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe it's just because I've been more emotionally connected with members of the UT community who, just guys like some of the other UT content creators, talking with those guys every single day, learning a little bit more. Like, I always follow the program very closely. You're more of the same, but I feel like there's actual genuine real excitement and hype again for Texas football, and belief in the coaching staff and the change of the culture, just kind of rewriting the program back on path towards national prominence and out of the dark decade. It feels different for myself and for the people that I talk to that pay the most attention, and for everything as far as I can gather from the fan base as a whole collectively. I think Arkansas was obviously a wake-up call, and that scared a lot of people. It felt too good to be true. Like, we have such a great performance week one against a team that a lot of people picked Louisiana, a game that a lot of people picked Louisiana to win. Texas went out there, handled business, was in full control, and then, you go out week two on a nationally televised game in prime time, and you get absolutely embarrassed. So initially there was a feeling of, what like, God, are we ever going to get right? Because all the hype, right, is even saw it play out right before us. Then week two happens. So there's ebbs and flows, but then you see the immediate correction and the immediate get back on track. And, I don't know, just the things that Sark says, the way that he approaches, the way he communicates, it feels different. There's genuine understanding of just real, like, what it takes to be a masterclass as far as just being a head coach and an offensive coordinator is concerned. So, again, I take this always back. I always lead right back to resume with your coaching staff. And that's something that I had to learn as a fan. I didn't always pay attention to it, but it matters. And we've seen the impact that this coaching staff had, not only on helping programs, compete and win national championships, but just developing talent and getting guys into the NFL all across the board. The Alabama core, as opposed to, the group of 5 core that was, made up the vast majority of the previous 2 coaching staffs. It feels different, and it's bigger than just the hype of the scale of hype being focused around the players and the team and the makeup. It starts from the top. And that, to me, has been the biggest difference, and why also I think now everybody feels like the right pieces are in place towards being good again. So,
well, I think
we'll show up and be loud. You don't have to worry about the atmosphere. The atmosphere will be good as ever again, especially off of a COVID year, right? We didn't get this last year. It didn't happen for us. No. So not only are the players hyped up and ready, but I know the fan base as well, just like you and I are kind of itching to be in that atmosphere and to feel that environment again.
Yeah, no doubt. I was teasing earlier when I said, are they you guys would be selling your tickets?
Oh, I know you were. Maybe the viewers didn't.
Although I've bought some tickets from Texas fans in the past and sat on that side. It goes both ways, but I think one of the things that, from an outside looking in, and just the respect of program and respect of understanding athletics and understanding how hard it is to win, is hard.
Yep.
And I think it's a great point that you make when you talk about the coach's resume, and we're not going to go down the rabbit hole of Nick Saban in Alabama right now tonight. No. But you have been shown time and time again the consistency of excellence and the emphasis put on the process instead of the product. And I think whenever I hear Sark talk in press conferences, and whenever I think about that Arkansas loss in week 2 and the corrections that you talked about seeing, he knows it's about the process, fellas. And there's going to be fans and there's going to be people that say, I want it here, I want it right now, I want a national championship this year. It's not realistic.
It's not realistic. No.
And I think this guy, from what I have seen so far as an outsider, really, really gets that. Now, will Texas donors allow him to do it? Time will tell. I don't know. You hope so, right?
Yeah. Well, for what was required for the buyout to happen, I think there's a legitimate long-term investment already, regardless of the outcome of season 1.
Right.
Yeah, but they'll have that for sure.
But it's very encouraging that you can tell.
You can. Yeah,
hey,
you definitely can.
Pump the brake. I know.
I appreciate you acknowledging that, because, again, you and I can chirp at each other and, the friendly banter and trash talk, right? But, at the end of the day, there is a certain level of respect between the 2 programs and even the 2 fan bases that you don't see from a lot of true bitter rivals. There's so much history and there's so much tradition, and that's part of what makes the game so fun and so special, is that both sides respect the other one as much as they want to, make them bleed, right?
Yeah, I mean, I want Texas to come into the game 5-0 and rank number 5, because I want to beat Texas when they're at their highest. Whenever it hurts the most, right?
A year like
this is the week.
Yeah.
This is the week to. If you're an OU fan, you let the hate flow. If you're a Texas fan, you let the hate flow. Now, remember, it's just a football game, and we need to. When I say hate, we need to channel that in the right way.
Yeah. Which is why I guess the game is at 11 a.m. because maybe there might not be a level of trust there from, I guess, Dallas PD or whatever it is, for
no doubt, but
everybody to conduct themselves for a full day of drinking and tailgating before a night game. It would be sick to see that game at night, though.
It takes 2 to tango, man. It takes 2 to tango. It takes 2 programs to to be at the top of college football to have something like this. So there has to be respect and appreciation for both programs, no matter what side you're on or not. And I think, a little shot at the Pokes here, but that's why that one's not really a rivalry to us.
Hey, man, same could be said about A&M. That's very similar there. We've actually talked about that. I think the way OU fans feel towards Oklahoma State fans is the same that Texas fans feel towards little brother out east.
Well, Gundy's 2-15 against OU.
Yeah.
What else is there to say?
Yeah. I don't even think A&M. I think A&M has one double-digit winning season since 1998. It's 21 years. 22 years.
They're about to get smacked again and have 3 straight losses.
Yeah. Yeah. But back on track. This could, to me, it's the winner of this game has all the momentum in the Big 12. And if they run the table, both teams have, they got a shot to be in the discussion there when it's all said and done, in the Final Four. But this is just like, it feels like such a, I don't know. You said before off air, I think you guys, OU fans, they sort of, like, you guys have to feel the momentum too, right? At least from what you're seeing, it's like you can tell that Texas isn't necessarily a joke anymore. Like, it seems like you were asking on paper, I guess you said you thought that it just feels different this year. And I don't know if you want to comment on why that is, but I think it's fair to say that, not just OU fans, but, schools, everybody that pays attention to college football can feel and understand why this Texas team is, a little bit different. It's because of, like I said, the coaching staff. But I don't know if you guys got that same vibe.
I think kind of what I'm getting at is walking into Red River Week, OU is definitely not the best OU team we've seen in a decade.
Yeah.
Okay? This is not the best one so far in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Also, on the other side, this is not an undisciplined, distraction-riddled Texas team in this decade that we have seen come into this game before.
That's what I was getting at.
Right?
You spoke it much more clearly than I did. I think on paper, this game is a lot more even than on paper what has been in the past. Now, what I said off air also with a caveat was, it doesn't matter. That's why you play the football game. Mm-hmm. And this one especially, the both of them could be undefeated. They both could be winless. You have no idea. I mean, in 95, in the middle of the dark days for OU was 0-4. Yeah. Texas was 4-0. Top 5 team in the country. OU beat them. Mm-hmm. OU was winless going into that game. But, I mean, anything can happen. But I will tell you, OU fans are damn sure on high alert. Mm-hmm.
As they should be.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. That's good stuff, man. What else was I? So something popped in the mental a minute ago. I don't remember what it was.
Well, I think, just to elaborate off of that, we're on Monday of OU Texas Week. I think we're going to have a few more episodes coming this week.
For sure.
We'll have more stuff develop. We'll have more stuff. Guys, if you're still with us, thanks for bearing with me. This is my first ever podcast, or however you would describe this. So we appreciate you for hanging with us
much more often moving forward, for sure, just to make this happen. But you're coming down here, what, Thursday?
I'll be down Thursday night. I'll be staying at your house, and I'll be, like I said, double burdened across.
So we could
have my OU flag on my car.
We could definitely get another 1 or 2 in before the game happens on Saturday, I would imagine.
We'll do that. And also, if anybody wants to put in the chat, we'll have you and I a little golf game on Friday. So we can put a little friendly wager on that and tie that into old Red River on Saturday, my friend.
My golf game is trash right now. It needs some fine tuning. I haven't played on it since like May, so.
You should see Beeb's golf game. The guy's terrible.
Yeah, he sucks. Beeb stinks. Is there anything we missed though? Like as we wrap this up, like did we? I know we kind of just.
There's stuff we missed.
Super broad scope, broad spectrum,
yeah.
Like outside view, just chilling.
Well, I think that's a good thing for Monday.
Yeah.
You know, we're not a daily live radio show, but we're gonna have more stuff coming for you this week.
I'm just
and this is just this is just a good broad kind of get some thoughts on paper for us, and we'll get back into the nitty gritty as we get into the week. Lincoln and Grinch will have their media tomorrow afternoon, so I'll have some stuff that'll be interesting coming from that.
I'm anxious to see our coordinator availability as well.
So, I'm excited, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. You and I are going to be down there together at the fair, 8:30 in the morning for the buses to pull in.
Yes,
one of the coolest parts of the whole thing. If you've never seen it and you're going to be down there, don't miss it. About 2.5 hours before kickoff, the buses will be rolling down, coming through the fair, as well as the band coming through. This is one of those things that makes college football the greatest, man. And I know NFL is king in ratings and money, but the pageantry, the passion.
This is the granddaddy.
And this one, man.
It's the granddaddy for us.
This is pretty darn cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm excited. I'm excited we get to do this again. It's a pretty cool tradition we've got going ever since we met up nowhere in Kansas and we figured out, golly, where are you from?
Yeah.
I don't know if we can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are,
First time,
10 years
like,
later. So.
Damn. Texas fan, OU fan, how the hell is this going to work? But honestly, it's been cool. I learned a lot about your side, and you learn a little bit about my side, hopefully. I think that's kind of the objective of this meeting between the two of us again, right? Just trying to maybe just provide the smallest amount of insight possible going into this game. So we'll link up again at some point, and I guess until then, man, I'll see you on Thursday.
All right, buddy. Boomer.